Do you like dogs? Good. Because today we have baby dogs. We are temporarily fostering a very young litter of orphan puppies who require bottle feeding. And so we thought it'd be a good chance to kind of talk about basic care for these guys. So this is the runt. He's very tiny. Or is this one a she? She's very tiny. And this is my preferred nipple that I like to use. There's several bottles out there. I find that I get a really good latch using this device here. I got it on Amazon, and it is really good feeding them all throughout till they get to 3-4 weeks of age. They just tend to latch really well. Like, I've always had trouble with the bottles getting them to latch. But this is my first feeding with them, and so far everybody's latched really well right off the bat. If they don't get a good latch, they're not going to eat enough, and they're not going to feel very satisfied. It's going to be a little struggle for you. So bottles and nipple is very important. See, he's kind of relaxing and latching really well. You can't see it. We'll get some footage of it later. But when they latch, you'll see their tongue kind of like envelops the nipple that you're using. And that's when you can tell they've got a really good latch, and they just kind of relax into it, and they're using their paws to push. Hey, buddy. So these guys I gotta feed about every 2 hours. As they get older, you can kind of space that out a little further. But right now, in these early weeks, they're gonna need about every 2 hours to eat. We're using puppy formula. There's so many people out there that will give you some misinformation about stuff you can use to feed these guys. You cannot use store-bought milk. Please don't do that. You want to make sure and there are stages, just like there is for humans, and what nutrients they need at different stages. So the newborn formula is going to be your best bet. Another thing with these guys, when you're feeding them formula, you want to make sure that the flow is not too heavy. We tend to think, oh, they're just not getting enough, and we open that nipple hole up really wide, and then they are just drowned in the milk. And what that can do is that can cause them to aspirate, and you'll see that when the bubbles come out of their nose. It means that they've just kind of like breathed this into their lungs, and it's coming everywhere because they just had so much at one time. The flow for younger guys is slow, and it's slow for a purpose. Now we're going to show you, since this guy is done eating. Hi, little one. Come here. They cannot pee and poop on their own. Their mother would do this. That's why she licks them. She would eat it and everything. You can hear everybody. So we take a damp baby wipe or paper towel that's moistened, and you gently, you want to gently just kind of do a little pat to see if we can trigger any pee or poop. And look, we're getting some pee. So we just gently, because if you're too rough, or you're too vigorous, you can cause some sores or irritation. Ooh. And Klaus, if you've watched my other videos, just moved it. Can you check the camera? I got it. Can you check the camera? We're gonna put little one here on the heating pad.
It's not facing you, really.
Yeah, can you move it? Sorry about that. We had technical difficulties because Klaus, the 3-legged dog, decided he wanted the attention. Alright, so this is a bigger one.
There.
And the one we had earlier was the runt. So what I like to do is I like to kind of place my finger to guide. There we go. And I'm low on formula, so I'm going to try and tilt my bottle so he's not sucking in air. There we go. Now you see how he latched pretty easily. I usually don't have a lot of issues with latching with this. It's when you get the bottles and stuff, you get some latching issues, but I typically have really good luck latching on this thing. Now, the other ones like to be cradled. I'm not a fan of the cradling because I want them to have their head like this. It helps with preventing aspiration. But sometimes puppies tell you what their comfy position is. Because remember, when they're nursing on a mom, they flip on their backs. They go all over the place. You do want to make sure that you see if they poop or pee each time. They may not always poop. Usually they're going to pee every time. Do I have milk? I do have milk in there. Come here, buddy. You got to find that happy latch. This is the first time this one's eaten off this thing. So he's still finding his happy latch and happy position. Another important thing with bottle babies that not everybody knows is that they can't produce their own body heat right now. That's why they snuggle together, they snuggle with mom. They're really not equipped to keep themselves warm. And right now we're pretty cold here. I think it's in the 20s. Thank you. So they would not have survived out on their own. So we have a heating pad. They make these great incubators that kind of just circulate some warm air. You gotta be careful with overheating in those, so you gotta monitor those. But we use a heating pad or a heating disc, and they seem to work pretty well. Just keeping them warm. You just don't want to, you have to watch out for scalding, so you don't want the heating pad too high. You want to put some layers in between the heating pad and the pups. You know, you don't want it too hot, you know, and you also want to have an area of wherever you're keeping them to have a spot where the heating pad's not, so they can move away from it if it does get too hot. And so you can kind of notice, oh, they're never on the heating pad portion. Maybe your heating pad's too hot. There you go, buddy. Now these guys don't even have their eyes open. They still have umbilical cords attached, so they're estimated just a few days old. Puppies start opening their eyes between 2 and 3 weeks. And they don't really see that well. Their ears are closed. They can't even hear me right now. They pretty much rely on smell at this point. But these guys, with proper care, will do well. I know some people, you know, sometimes they think, oh, I want to foster and I want to help, but I'm just scared of bottle babies. The hardest thing about bottle babies is you got to wake up in the night. That's the hardest part. It's once you get the hang of it like this, they're easy to take care of. You know, they stay in a very small, compact space because they're tiny. They don't move around a lot, so you don't need a lot of room to do bottle babies. And you usually get a lot of support from the rescuer, the shelter that you're fostering from, and you get to save lives. So what we went over, nipples matter. This nipple is my favorite. I'll try and find a link to it. I'm probably not going to. You can search yourself. It's on Amazon. And as they get older and they get more used to this nipple, then I've fed 4 at a time. It's a little hard to do because they get really excited and sometimes they knock it around and stuff spills out. But usually 2 or 3 at a time is pretty handleable with this device, which really helps if you have like large litters. But you can see he found his latch here. He's definitely just going to eat to his content. Now, the downside with these is you can't measure how much each puppy is eating, and I know that's important to a lot of people. I like to measure weight. I like to weigh them after feedings and before feedings, and just to make sure if they're peeing every single time, they're ingesting something. But you always want to make sure that you're keeping other pets away, washing your hands before and after. These guys don't have protection against anything. There was a recent study done about shelter puppies being vaccinated as soon as they're like a day old, in shelter, not in foster homes. And they had a really high success rate of protection and very low adverse reaction rate. So I don't know where that's published, but I do know I was in a webinar recently and they talked about it. But yeah, so if you're in, you know, unfortunate circumstance where mama dog has passed away, have no fear. Get you some formula. Oh, eat everything. Get you some nipple. I like using blender bottles to mix my formula in because it works really well. Hi, buddy. And we're going to see if this one, little boy, is going to give us some pee. Can you give us some pee? Oh, I know. Maybe. Not yet. Oh, there it goes. There we go. Just a little bit. Isn't it cute? I don't know what breed they are. I'm thinking Doberman mix because we've got black and tans and a red and tan. But he's got some white on those paws. So definitely something going on in there. We've got one more to feed, but I need to mix up a little bit more formula. So we're going to pause. Okay, we're back. Use very hot water because they don't. Cold formula like sits. They're not as ravenous for it, but you don't want it scalding because then you're gonna scald them, and then they're gonna be hurting on the inside. They're gonna cry. They're not gonna want to eat. So always make sure your temperature is nice. And reheating formula. If you put it in the microwave, the milk portion of your formula is gonna curdle. So you have to reheat. Do you want to latch? You don't know? Let's see if we can get this last one to figure it out. There we go. Oh. So when they put them paws up, it's like what they would do naturally on their mom. And puppies massage the nipple. You can see how he's putting his paws back and forth like that. That's massaging, and they do that to stimulate milk flow. So it's a natural nursing behavior. That's what we want to see. And he's trying to find a good latch. Oh, there it is. You see how his tongue will come out and envelop the nipple? That's what we want to see. We want to see them getting cupped. So he's still trying to figure it out. And eventually he's going to get that tongue around there. Come here, buddy. Let's see if we can get you latched. I'm going to stabilize his head with my finger here so we can direct it where we want it to go. Come here, buddy. Come here. You're going to be my feisty one, aren't you? Everybody else latched real nice. Come on. There we go. There, now you see where that tongue goes around? You want a nice latch around. His nostrils are up and open. He's not getting any milk up in there. And he's got his paw. This is a good nursing position for a puppy. This is where we eventually want them. Some of them did that cradling thing. But this is a great nursing position where his head's up, his paws are up. And this helps prevent aspiration. Some puppies, they don't get to this position very often, but this is the position we want them in for feeding. It's just a better position for them to nurse at. But they're sweet little babies. So always check your temperature of your formula. Reheating we were talking about. You can do the bottle method where like you heat up water and then you stick like I would put this blender bottle in the hot water, and so the hot water will heat up the formula. That takes a while, so you got to start prepping that early. And in the middle of the night, I'm not going to want to be doing that. So I try and not have leftover formula, because leftover formula you can keep in the fridge for like 24 hours and still heat it up and use it. I try and kind of like make a little at a time. That way I don't have leftover formula that I have to reheat, and I can just make fresh formula. But if you do have leftover and you got to put it in the fridge, you can microwave for short spurts. Like we're talking like 10 seconds at a time. And you just kind of have to like, keep kind of heating it until it's warm enough. So you can do it. Oh, he's really got a good latch now. He's eating good. You can reheat it that way. You just have to be careful not to spoil it. It's a very delicate process. The best way is to have the water bath for it, where you can heat it up through that. But I always like making fresh, so I try to make just a little at a time once I kind of understand how much they're eating every time. Oh, you're really eating good. I can hear them gulping. That's very good, because I know when they did their last feeding at the shelter, they were struggling a little bit to get them to eat, so this is good that they're getting a nice good meal in. And then in 2 hours, I will do the process all over again, and they'll probably latch even better since they've already had this experience, so we may try feeding 2 at a time next time. But they're so small that they're not as stable, so I may have to hold them like I am right now. I don't know if you can hear him. He is gulping. There's a hungry baby. But yeah, don't be scared to foster bottle babies, bottle kittens. You know, these guys are so fun. You know, if you're a night owl, get you some bottle babies while you're up at night. Feed some puppies. But the main things, you want to make sure they have adequate heat. You want to make sure that they are being stimulated to go to the bathroom, and that you're feeding them frequently, and that you're not over feeding them with like the nipple flow. You done? Sometimes they take a little break and then they go right back at it, but sometimes they're like, hey, I'm done. Because he was just gulping it down. You done? Oh, you got a little full belly there. I think you're done. Because you gulped it, buddy. I need to wet another towel to help this little baby go. Alright, so main takeaways with these cute little guys. Pick a good nipple and make sure they have heat. Make sure they're stimulated. Make sure you're not giving them too much nipple flow. And love them. Look how cute they are. Thanks for watching.